I'm back. So I got lost in the pointing out everything that was wrong, and I forgot that constructive criticism isn't only about dismantling what's wrong, but also offering alternatives and healthy new ways to approach situations. So, one sec, got a reply. Yeah. Okay, so how to play well? No, I'll play the Vuk one. Ghast? Nah, let's play Vulcaning. 3 million copter, nice. Let's see how to play the game well.
Welcome back to another exciting round of Minion Masters! Let's duel!
So, at the start of the game, by the way, I'm talking about 2v2, not 1v1, but of course you can't have a 2v2 with bots. Start of the game, you want to go ahead and see which person has the better 2-cost cards, or 3, or maybe 4 to capture bridges with. So once that happens, you wait. The early game is a slow progression of mana cost. You go for 2, then maybe 3, 4, eventually someone breaks and needs to pierce through with a big card, and that's at that moment that you concede, and then you wait until the enemy reaches your face. That's when you can defend at a lower cost, and then you can also get the bridge behind, and that grants you a mana advantage. The important part is always the bridges. It's not about killing minions. Like Brawler Scrats, the big mistake I see a lot of new players do is that they just use it to kill stuff, but Brawler Scrats will never capture a bridge, and they will almost never deny a bridge. So they're not really worth having 2 of them. I never bring them. Alright, so let's say you have the bridges, meanwhile the enemy's a bit struggling to defend, or they are messing a push, or they're slowly defending, and you are nearing 10 mana. What you should do at that time is you can either rarely maybe place a 2-cost card at the front to lengthen the duration of your bridge control, or more often you should play a slow unit that is a generic unit that you can build up on at the back. Generic slow units can be 3 to 10 mana. You should often play your medium range card at the back before really playing a big unit, or else you kind of expose yourself to being countered by a Curse Bearer or something, but it's fine. Let's say that you have a Whirly and a Blue Golem in hand, and you are nearing 10 mana, and you hold both bridges, and the enemy has a massing threat coming from the bottom lane. At that time, you should probably play either Whirly or Blue Golem at the top lane, not into the enemy's threat, because you want the enemy's threat to be close to your face before you handle it. You don't place fodder at the front just because. Ask yourself if your play is necessary. The reason we place it at the back is because it's not necessary. We will build something upon that. Builds like that, building a push, it's not something you do every single time you play a card. Building a push is something that is allowed to you because you made good trades elsewhere and have gotten a mana advantage, which allows you to do that. Another situation, let's say the enemy is completely obliterating you and have both bridges up and don't have really threatening cards on the board. At that time you want to both sit to 10 mana and reset the board and start taking trades on your side once again. As for cards, I'll talk about that in a bit. What more gameplay can I explain? I have a picture actually. I'll add it to my comment. Alright, don't play into the enemy threat. Wait until necessary to play anything. Don't overspend on defense. So you should assess the threat of enemies. There are fragile, non-threatening units like Scrat, Skeletons, Grenadiers, Marines. Those are very fragile. They easily die to a defense. Defenses like placing your own range. So once the enemy reaches your face, those fragile units are exposed and easy to handle with Marines, Grenadiers, Stint, Crossbow Dude. Very cheap cards that will just rampage through them, kill them one by one. Or a Whirly Scrat is excellent on defense. Once the front line, let's say a Stonebjorn hits face and there are some Jade Flingers and Grenadier at the back, a Whirly will kill everything at once. And that's all you need for a defense. It's fine to take some face damage. You can allow yourself to take plenty of face damage before it starts to be something you can't use to gain mana advantage with. You can let yourself fall down to 1000 health if you must. Of course, if the enemy is clearly playing aggro with a Setsu and a Volko and Rammers and Dragon Balls, then the game switches into being a defensive position at all cost. But that isn't really the issue here. Now, learn the mana cost of units. This game is all about mana. It is the fundamental unit of the game. Everything is entirely based on mana. I guess time is also a unit in the game because there is XP that is generated through time. But for the sake of minions and plays you actually make instead of decisions you make, it is mana. So if you want to judge your own plays, or if you post game, if you want to compare the health of a unit with its mana cost and the damage that a spell does, that is a very good practice. Poison Strike is interesting that you bring that. I was just mentioning it yesterday. I was saying that it was like the patient person's Chain Lightning. It really kills a ton of stuff for its cost, but of course it takes a very long time for it to be applied. So it's not really used to shut down a defense to allow your presence on the field to remain, but it is used to kill a bunch of medium health or lower units, such as Stixie, Fire Imp, Stun Lancers, but Poison Strike you pretty much always want to use it on the enemy master side of the board and not really in the center of the board because it doesn't kill fast enough. Bear Avalanche is fine for that, but it doesn't hit air, so you're kind of left with that issue when you're trying to pierce through using your spell. Beam can be used to shut down an enemy death ball if they have plenty of units, but really whenever I use a spell and I don't deny or capture a bridge, I don't feel like I've gotten the value I could have from it. Let's say you have a Curse Bearer moving towards a Whirly and then they put a Zapinator to shut down the Curse Bearer. That would be an instantaneous beam to of course get the value from the mana, but also value from securing your unit. Whenever the enemy has a big push coming, you should ignore that and play elsewhere. As for the bridges, when the enemy has some weak fragile units, that's when you want to overpower them and get the bridge quickly. If your units aren't gonna kill enemies fast enough, then you should fight them near your face. By the way, here's what I mean by here's a 2-cost card on the bridge. Now I wait. I even hold my spell waiting. I can deny something with this. Like, let's say this is going top. I could have impetus them in the other lane. Now I wait. I don't play into that. That's useless. And this puff is annoying, so I'll probably just bring them over. Get this puff killed. I might leak here, unfortunately. Luckily I do not. I do this on the bridge to capture it instantly. This is on the bridge because it counters that. Now here, if I had a Shock Rock, for example, I would use it on the Annihilator. Instead, I'm gonna rotate to my free card to use it soon, but see, I place it at the back. I used my free card to get it earlier. Now this statue is awful, of course. I'm nearing 10 mana, so I'll just play at the back into the same lane because what I have on the board is already winning. If my units were not winning and there was a threat coming up, I would play my Vuk at the bottom instead. Now I see that, so I instantly play it on the bridge to shut down the bridge. He's not giving me anything. I'll probably play this whichever lane. Now this is bad. I won't wait until I gain value from it. I'll just play it now. Meanwhile, I'm nearing 10 and I'm playing. See, this is my most... I do it without even thinking, but this is my most generic card that I can put at the back. I always put ground units at the back. Playing flying units at the back really doesn't pressure a bridge that much, since they can ignore it, kill it elsewhere. The flying units are somewhat fast, so they'll just zoom through, not even contest the bridge. I can't add anything to help this. If it's a flying unit, I can't add to it to secure a bridge, really. And this was the most generic card I had. Now next is the Curse Bearer. I'll waste a bit of mana here just to rotate my hand and blast this poor little puff here. So let's see now that I'm in 0 mana, but I hold both bridges, so I will not play anything, I will just wait. I'm looking at my card, seeing what he's doing, what he might do. Of course that's a bot, so he doesn't do anything, but yeah. Nice statue into the Curse Bearer. Now what I might be tempted to do is, instantly play this, but no, I'll just play this at the back and then play my free card as a throwaway to start DPSing and to step on the bridge. Now I'm once again just gonna idle something at the back. I see a Wizard Puff about to die, so I'm adding more fodder here. These 4 cards are fodder for the death effect here. I could play Vulture in the center to push more. This is probably maybe gonna lose, so I guess I'll just add a Sting here. Now, once again, I wait. By the way, depending on what he has, if he had something that is extremely vulnerable to Defenso, let's say a Scotty or an Azog, I would not idle with a Defenso. At least, yeah. I would, because a Defenso is a specialty card. Even though, sure, it's a medium tank, etc. No, it should. The reason it's in my deck is to achieve its purpose of being a Defenso chopper. So I'm gonna try to use something else first before I resort to using my Defenso as a cycle card. Now I'll just play something else on the back, my most basic one. Then he plays something quick that dies to Impetus. I'll play that. Oh, I got my 0 cost ready. Then I'll slow him down because his attack ramps up. There we go. Oh, I messed up. I should have used my Chain Lightning to kill that Annihilator instead. Now, I'll play this in the same lane as the... Oh, I got my free card, so I'll play my free card. Now I'm waiting. Alright, let's play in the same lane as here because I have a pressure. Oh, I got my free card. The mana puff's about to die. Let me add some fodder. Bah! Alright, you get the idea. Next, I will talk about cards. Oh my god, look at these cards. I only have 1 legendary and he's a meme. This could be a fucking cleaver and it would work far better. Boom. Do you really need legendaries? Oh my god, this is a epic. Well, you have it already, so you can't complain about that. Hmm. Let's see. This is a decent card. It's rare. I'm only gonna point out common cards. Wait, you said you didn't want this. Whatever. I'm gonna do it anyway. You're not the boss of me. Crossbow dude's a bit too fragile. Lead Swarmer is good. Gotta get your value from it though. You must make sure that you use it to defeat lower standing 2-cost cards or a bunch of scrats, for example, to get a bridge with. Or you're using it as a fodder to distract enemies to save your other assets. Grenade is great to help other units fight. So the way the game works, when you're defending, or whenever you play a big card like a 6-cost card or plus, you want it to really stay in your lane, on your side of the arena for as long as possible, because they are a threat, which disallows the enemy from playing. And then since you play an expensive card, you're only left with a little bit of mana. So that's why you need those little low-cost cards, which is something that you guys' situation is very rare. Most newbies will only have expensive cards, where you guys only have cheap cards, which have their limitations, but in another way. If you ever struggle with big units, then you can use an Elite Swarmer as a distraction into a Haunting Hugger to curse anything, and then forget about it. You have Chasers. Bats are better than Property Scrats, by the way. These sort of bats should be used in conjunction with medium-ish ground units when you want them to pierce through other medium units, or use them to kill big units after you cut off their supply. For example, you got a Mardred coming through your side and then an Annihilator behind him. You want to place your bats away in the other lane. They will make their way to the Mardred. Meanwhile, you can deal with the Annihilator once Mardred is closer to face. Property Scrats are kind of crap. Stint is a good card. Wins a lot of 1v1 versus other 2-cost cards, but yeah, the tech is a bit expensive. You must know to use it to back cap on the other lane. Scrats and Swarmers are very basic for both fodder and split push. More cards I could recommend. Armored Scrats are good for like a sturdier Scrat pack or Swarmers. These kind of cards are there so that you don't sweat it on defense. They're not there so that you dump 14 mana's worth of 2-cost cards at once to defend. No, a 2-cost card is there so that you can like defend against expensive shit. Well, more expensive shit against 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cost cards easily. They give you breathing room and a mana advantage on defense. Meanwhile, what other card could you play? Crystal Archers, I would say, are a bit better than Marines. They are more fragile and you must take care of them, but they deliver a bit more. Jalo's legendary, so you hate him. Lost Legionnaires are like the only good use of Empyrean Army. Don't use Gnats, by the way. It's very hard to get 3 mana's worth from them. They don't cap bridges. Ravenous Swarmer along with a stun can be a cheeky way to defend most things that don't reflect or do AoE. Like you could use a Shock Rock into Ravenous Swarmers. That's a classic way to deal with pretty much anything that isn't too crazy. See, Scrat Horde is decent, but these are the kind of cards where you must make sure that you don't waste them due to their fragility and short lifespan. Sniper is decent. Not that many people bring counters to it, by the way, as I saw with like Stixie. That's why Stixie and Harbinger, well, Harbinger then before he got nerfed, that's why they are so oppressive. It's because people don't remove them and they play into them. So by playing a card like this, you are making the enemy make mistakes, which is one good way to approach 2v2s. Blind Date is fine, but please get use out of it. Don't just send it to die instantly to slow down the enemy. That's a bad use of it. Warrior's fine. Bear's fine also. I was gonna say he's fat and doesn't step on the bridge, but that doesn't exist anymore because the devs dumped down the game. Assassin's good. You can defend against a lot with Assassin. Just make sure that you don't. Just make sure that you have some foresight and that you know that there are enemies coming. So you must make sure that the Assassin doesn't get revealed by like a stint and then chasers and dies instantly after killing. You should never play cards that die on your side of the board. Well, okay, I say never, but you should always make sure that your cards make it to the bridge at least. If your cards die on your side, that means they didn't really achieve much. Most of the time whenever I send cards that die on my side, it's things like an Elite Swarmer because I'm defending like a 5 mana aimbot. Bounty Sniper is good also. He can be cheesy. If the enemy doesn't have removal, he's a massive threat because of the XP game. Cannon Roller is excellent, it just got buffed. You can easily keep that alive. This is a very good support to melt medium ground units. Let's say you have an Undying Skeleton and they place a Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf will melt the Undying Skeleton, but then a Cannon Roller can easily revert that. Your Undying will die, but you kill the Lone Wolf, which is a pretty massive threat on its own. Chain Lightning is a great spell, but always ask yourself if you got enough value from your spells whenever you use one. I've said how. Chain Lightning, for example, let's say you have some push going, you got an Elite Swarmer and 2 Marines going forward, and then the enemy places a Whirly and a Vulture. That is more mana than you put, but a Chain Lightning will shut those down. Which means you both kill more mana than you have, you also secure the bridge and secure your assets. Even though in the end you have paid 2 more mana, you have gotten the bridge, secure, that's let's say 1 mana value, and then 1 mana, you overpaid 1 mana, but you're keeping your assets on the board. Buzzers, don't fall into the trap of using them. Flying units don't cap bridges. If you don't cap bridges, your plays are pointless. Poison Strike is decent. Propeller Horde, you might prefer this to Scrat Horde. Propeller Scrats. This is the decent card because when activated they deal 125 damage, DPS, sorry, which is immense if not dealt with. Although they are very fragile for a 4 cost and they don't cap a bridge. And they have a condition to meet. Raging Reinforcement, this is okay. Next, don't fall into the aggro, easy games. You should. I commend you guys for playing control and not aggro, which is what everyone does because it takes 0 effort and it's extremely rewarding and it's extremely hard to stop. These are decent. Spear Throwers are decent. Just make sure that you get value from their spears in like killing fragile, expensive threats like, I don't know, a Vulture, Mana Chasers, Crystal Elves. Their spears deal 30 damage, huh? Kinda crap. Undying is a kind of sleeper OP, not really sleeper because everyone knows about it, but it's OP because nothing beats it for its cost, considering the fact that it reses afterwards. Whirly, excellent card, make sure you use it correctly. It's like the best defensive card in the game, the most versatile, because anything that locks onto your face, be it melee or range, you can place a Whirly and he'll kill everything on his own. This might be good, I don't know, not really, it's fine. Aimbot, if you guys want to build a bit of Outlander tech, Aimbot is actually very good, very hard to remove unless you give the ability, like give the opportunity for the enemy to remove it with like a beam by playing next to it, then it's a pretty annoying threat. Battle Shehu is decent. People will make mistakes when defending against it. Crystal Construct is not really that useful, I don't know why you brought him. He is a sponge that costs 4 mana, but he doesn't really do much. If the enemy misplays into him, he's fine, but he's there to if you have a lot of backline threat or a Stormbringer as your master and some range, the APS at the back. Defenso Chopper is an excellent card, but make sure that you don't fall into the trap of using him just for the lulz against any melee unit. Use it for what he's there for. Also, don't stall the enemy next to your bridge using this. Defenso has a tendency to make the enemy take forever to kill themselves upon it, which means that they control the bridge behind them. Always make sure that you have a plan to quickly recapture a bridge if you're defending slowly. Divine Warrior is okay, but most people that play her absolutely suck at her and do exactly what I just said with the defense though, but on top of that they also don't end up killing anything, so they just stall the enemy for 15 seconds and achieve nothing. Fireball, don't play that. It's too bad now. I wish Ghast was useful. He's so cool. Laser turret is decent. If you assume control of the board and you don't have anything to do and you're like sitting at, I don't know, approaching 7, 8 mana, you can plop down a laser turret which denies the enemy from playing anything. Meanwhile, when the enemy does play something, you have a bit more mana left to deal with it. It's fine to build a laser turret sometime. Yeah, right in the middle, I would say. But that's for the denying purpose. Its obvious intended purpose is to melt down big units. But I prefer it as a denial tool that people might play into. Scrotillery is a decent spell. It takes a bit of skill to handle the timing, but it deals more damage than a fireball. And it also can capture bridges on top of denying them. By the way, I was thinking, Cage Brawler here, it's the decent card, you could play that. Pretty much guaranteed value no matter what happens if you have some sort of mana to defend it with. It will always bait more mana than it costs. Make sure you play those kind of mana banking cards when you are at 10 mana or nearing 10. Because it's pointless to play them when you don't have 10. The point of mana banking is that you both amass a lot of value later on for more for a longer presence, but it's also to force the enemy to play, which means you want cards to be able to deny what they're gonna play. Where was I? Here. Don't play Shadow Whelp. Sniper Squad, nah, it's fine. Swarmer Totem is it's okay. People will probably deal with things that you guys can't deal with. I don't know. I wouldn't play it. 5 costs. Woodsman is actually fine. He's totally fine, actually. He's a big dude and he hits hard and he doesn't cost an excessive amount of mana. Just make sure that you, like all cards, you keep him alive by spreading out the damage, distracting with fodder, etc. Oh, Zap Zapinator, the most OP card in the game, am I right? 0 counter to it. 0 counter, wait, oh, that's legendary though. Caber Tosser is also decent. Cleaver, make sure that he stays on your side for a long while and that you have proper support for him for when he starts getting into trouble. Grenadier is excellent, Daggerfall is okay. Any spell helps. Because Cleaver baits the enemy into playing a certain type of thing, which you can then counter with Grenadier, for example. Ardera is OP. Why the fuck is she mythic? Oh my god. So it finally became popular that a cheese that had been known for a while with Ardera, where you would wildcard her, play multiple of her with Spawn of Fury, and she would just shield herself along with anything around her and rage herself, so she would build a immense death ball of them. And Beta Dwarf, in their immense wisdom, the way they fixed that was first by reducing the amount of wildcards, then reducing the amount of wildcards of Spawn of Fury, and then finally making her mythic. So that has fucked over anyone who didn't cheese. Anyone who now faces her in 1v1 or even in 2v2, because she cannot be moved anymore. She cannot be destroyed by a bolt, lightning bolt, arcade bolt. She can't be moved by Impetus Blast. Anyway, that's me talking about Ardera, not me talking for you. I'll get into deck building in a sec. These are fine, but they're a bit vulnerable. Blue Golem is decent, but once again he got nerfed due to cheese, which is unfortunate. He used to have 800 health and 2 attack speed, but people exploited him along with Rampant Growth, Mushrooms, Spirit in solos. Border of the Burning Fist is decent, to be honest. Oh my god, all these legendary cards that are instant win, like Fergus or Rekinator or Khaled or Amun or Rendrath or Ruby. Alright, that's it. Now, when deck building, well, damn, I only have my solos deck now. I deleted all my other decks. Yos. But anyway, for 2v2s, I tried to have a very wide variety of cards. You want cards that contest bridges, such as your favorite. Hello. You want cards that contest bridges, like your favorite friends here, these guys, and then maybe you can even have. No, that's not it. I meant to click she elf, and to click her because she's okay. Then you got your swarmers, and you got your tantrum throwers. You got these friends that can split among you two. Then you got your a bit more expensive tools, like you got your armored scraps, you got these, you got your marines. I would only play marines if I bring Outlander tech. Aimbot is good. Alright, then you got, I would bring this if you bring Zenshi cards, like a Blue Golem or a Shen. Sorry, Shen is legendary. You're not allowed to bring legendaries. Or a Battle Shihu, or a Tranquil Shihu. Oh, I glossed over a bunch of them here, didn't I? Yeah, okay, Stun Lancers are decent, but not in a great spot. Tranquil is fine. Alright. Next, you're starting to get into the forecast cards, which start to have very good abilities in them, like Assassin. Then you got Bounty, which is a big threat on its own. Then you got this, and then you got your spells. Wait, I'll get to go with spell. You got your Curse Bearer, which is a very strong tool to have. Just make sure that you don't waste it, squander it. Then I don't know, Sentry might be in a decent spot. Then you got your Drone Walker if you're going for Outlander tech. Pretty strong card. Lone Wolf is supreme, damn. Forecast cards, you can bring this, to be honest. It gives a variety of cards. Just make sure that you don't waste them. Rock Rebels is very strange. Then you could bring these guys, these. They're all viable forecast cards. Then it's starting to get a bit expensive, and this is where power cards become a thing. This is what you build your deck for, the result of your deck, the meaning of your deck. Let's say that you've got a buff, your impetus because you're the best player in the game and you use the best card in the game that requires the highest IQ to play. Let's say you're really going hard on the... I wouldn't bring Stint actually, not in this case. Let's say you're really going hard on the tech here. This grants you 14 mana. 14 worth of mana tech per cycle, which is plenty to power your aimbot. This could be the range DPS backbone of a deck, and then you fill it up with other stuff, like you can have your medium cost, your medium range. Then since you're playing 2v2, when you're playing 2v2, you want to spread out the specialty cards so that each player always has a generic card to idle with. Let's say this guy has the specialty card of the Curse Bearer, and then he would fill the rest with a bit of this, a bit of that, and maybe with a big spell. There we go. That could be one of the two decks, but this one is focused more on cycling quickly, so he could be a cycle master like Valorian or Volko. And getting these out. Meanwhile, other things you can build up on. Battle Shihu is a decent fighter. When you build him, you would like to have a mushroom available for him also. Gax is actually... oh, never mind, he's legendary. Not allowed to have legendaries. Legionnaires? No. They're not legionary. Then you're starting to get into the 6-cost cards. You can pick one you like. This is a good defensive tool. Whenever one of you two plays a heavy card like this, make sure that the other doesn't double down and also plays a 6-cost card. Make sure that they play at most like a 2-3 cost to support it. You want to alternate who pays how much, where, for what, to have a correct pace. And if you want the cleaver as a power card, I would suggest having every other card be lower than the cleaver, for example. If you're going for something more expensive... wait, there's barely anything worth using. These cards are really idle cards or answers to something that is shut down easily. Brother, not so much, but Golem, for example. Let's say the enemy has a Scrat tank on its way and you have a lot of mana. You can place a Golem to murder the Scrat tank easily and then force the enemy to answer the Golem. Sure, you're paying 2 cost more for it, but your Golem will barely take any damage from it. That was something I used to do with Rock Rivals when it was 6 mana. But yeah. Damn, why did I delete the deck? I liked it. I'm gonna build 2 decks that are decent and only use rare and actually, why not? What did I have earlier? Vulture. Yeah. Oh yeah, as for flying units, I would suggest only bringing 1 flying unit. Maybe 2 at most. That is per deck. I kind of impose myself that limitation. If you want your brain to expand, you should use Impetus Blast. Where do you work out? By using Impetus Blast. You see this guy had a Curse Bearer, and then you fill the rest with a bit of fodder for the... let's go with these. Oh my god, this deck would generate a bit too much tech, actually. I counted 14 earlier, I think. Let's go again. 9 plus 1, 10 plus 6, 18. That is too much tech. I wouldn't really bring that much. You don't want to bring too many things that do the same thing and that are answered the same. So let's say you also want a power card in this one. Not a power card, I mean a heavy card. You could bring a Scrat tank for a heavy defense up. Actually, with this I would bring a Caber Tosser. That could be one deck, and next the other could be specialized into Voidborn Wound. Is that a thing that... kinda? Not really, never mind. The other deck could be... this could be a Stormbringer, by the way. Let's see, what else could the other bring? Oh yeah, if that's a Stormbringer, this should fit in a Cannon Roller, actually. Anyway, another deck that uses different cards could be this. Let's bring this, could bring this as the flying unit. Let's bring, this one could have, oh yeah, that's the thing, I forgot about this big spell here. This one could have both, okay, I'm getting lost anyway. Could bring a Chain Lightning. This one could bring a Beam of Doom as a big spell. I always want a team of 2 players should always bring a Cataclysmic spell, which I call. There's the small spells that cost 2, then there's the, I'd say, heavy spells, but they're not that costly, but heavy spells, medium heavy spells like Chain Lightning, 4 to 5 like Scratillery, and then there are Cataclysmic spells which are pretty much 6 and more, although the only 6 one is Magma Storm. These demolish threats of any size. Magma Storm, Beam, Activated Breath, but that's something else entirely. Don't play Accursed, it's a noob trap. The game feeds you value. You're not actually playing well when you win with Accursed, it's just the game giving you value. Howling Moon is sort of one. Mountain Shaper is one, but it's not really used anymore. Rock and Roller is a meme, but it can do its thing. Maybe this deck could be heavier on the expensive unit because it uses not a cycle but a timer master. So let's not bring too many. It could be a Morelia. Let's say this is Morelia. You could bring Once Bitten with these. These pair well together. The enemy will often spawn both Tantrum Throwers into werewolves. As Morelia, you want to use your spell reduction page. Is Blind Date available? Yeah, it's a rare. There. You want a bit more capable units here. This one could run a Cleaver, and then along with the Grenadier, that'd be nice. Mana Chaser, you can toggle between playing 1 or 3 to help out depending on the situation. Then this one might want to bring some ranged. Elves don't need to... Oh, sorry, I already have a bunch of range, but elves don't need to pair with anything. Then you could get a Tranquil, or I don't know, an Undying. This could be the other deck. I didn't go through these very much, but they are very capable of breaking through most things. As long as you get the proper value from each play, you'll be fine. I guess that's all I have to say.